discussing the 2020 presidential election results, as well as Kendall Jenner's birthday party.
Followed by a look at Johnny Depp's recent Libel case and a spotlight on CSUF alumnus David Castaneda.
Finally, we're committed to bringing you the news, views, and info to go on this episode of the Report Roundtable Discussion. I'm Brie Eastlick.
I'm Andrea Carvajal.
I'm Jorge Flores.
And I'm Amanda Mendoza. As you can see, we are continuing to practice social distancing and are going to conduct our episodes via Zoom for the foreseeable future. Although we cannot be together in person, we invite you all to continue to be a part of our discussion. Follow us on Twitter at The Report CSUF or on our Titan TV Instagram at Titan TV CSUF to keep in touch with us and view our new contents.
It's no doubt the 2020 election has been a roller coaster, especially amid a global pandemic. With last Tuesday being election day, Americans nationwide were on the edge of their seats for nearly 5 days, awaiting an official call for who will win the presidency this year. This past weekend, it was announced that former Vice President Joe Biden has been named the President-elect of the United States, along with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris winning 290 electoral votes as of Sunday. For more on the historical win, we turn to CNN reporter Camila Bernal.
For Joe Biden, November 7th holds a special meaning. 48 years ago on that date, he was elected to the Senate. Now, nearly half a century later, on the same day, Biden became president-elect.
I'm humbled by the trust and confidence you placed in me. I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify.
The election breaking barriers as Senator Kamala Harris will become the first female vice president in United States history.
While I may be the first woman in this office, I will not be the last.
From coast to coast, supporters flooded the streets, honking horns, dancing, and cheering the projected victory. Inside the White House, the mood was far from celebratory. President Trump refusing to concede, tweeting in part, "I won the election, got 71 million legal votes." The president and his team repeating baseless claims of fraud, launching more legal challenges, and contesting the outcome of the race.
Obviously, he's not going to concede when at least 600,000 ballots are in question.
But Biden is forging ahead, on track to become the 46th president of the United States.
I'm a proud Democrat, but I will govern as an American president.
First of all, a big congratulations to future President of the United States, Joe Biden, and Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. As was said in the video, this is a very historical election, and I'm so happy to see that we have a female Vice President who is also a person of color. This is amazing, and she broke barriers or glass ceilings, as she was saying. Now, you guys, there's so much to talk about today. Looking at the election, something we have to remember, though, is that we're still counting votes. Georgia is looking at a recount of votes, and according to the Associated Press, North Carolina still hasn't been finalized, and there's so many lawsuits. You know, I really don't think that anything will change, but we are still counting because everyone's voices need to be heard, because that's what we're all about. You know, the election took 5 days, as I said, and I don't know if it would ever end, you know, between Trump calling voter fraud, all the lawsuits, and the days on end of counting. It was a lot. Now, what are you guys feeling? This election has been a whirlwind of ups and downs. What are your thoughts on it all?
Guys, something very important that we need to call about. It's the fact that these were historic elections, just like you were mentioning. And I want to call out for the winner and the loser side. If we talk about the winner, we gotta talk about Joe Biden, how he won those 290 votes. Those are 20 more electoral votes than the magic number. And that should tell us something. Now, I'm gonna speak about the young Americans. I am the happiest when it comes about the elections today, because these results, they are telling us about the diversity. And this candidate, and I'm talking about Joe Biden, he's representing the diversity. And we can see this because of the Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Again, these are historic elections because all the things that we were going through the past 4 years, now his theme or his title for this campaign was to heal America. And that's something that I really like from his campaign. Now let's go super quickly to the loser side. Well, what the counts they were going into counting and voting, and the people that were just like on lines. Well, Donald Trump, he's just saying that this is a fraud. that it's not the way it should be, and that he's the actual winner. He also tweeted several times on this social media, and even a lot of people, they were telling him to stop doing that because that's misinformation. While the voting, they were just like counting on the polls, he was on his golf place just to relax or something. Well, this is clearly something that we can't accept for my president. And I think that's very embarrassing when he talks to the actual president, and he should be more respectful about the elections. But like I said, and I mentioned, I'm happy for these elections. I'm happy to see what's going to happen in our country for the next 4 years. And the most important thing is the kind of rhetoric, the kind of public speaking skills that Joe Biden is using in order to talk to the American people. What do you guys think?
I completely agree. I mean, these past 5 days, I felt so anxious just to get these results. Every morning I'd wake up and be like, is there anything new? And it just stayed the same. And I was like, when are we ever going to get these results? And I felt like it was going to be forever. And then these swing states, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Georgia, really came through. And you know that this was the youth. This was the people voting early. This was mail-in ballots. And when people say that their voice doesn't count, or like their voice or their vote doesn't matter, this election shows that it does. It was so close. The numbers were so close. And it goes to show one vote can make a difference. Any vote can make a difference. And once we saw that, I think people knew, like, okay, voting matters. This is a democracy, and we have a voice to make a change. And I think it's amazing to see these states flip because they wanted a change, or these people voting, first-time voters I've talked to, or my grandparents. My grandma hasn't voted since 1990s, and she was like, no, I feel like this is very important to vote in this election. I even helped her, and I felt like, you know, people knew that this is important and we needed to make a change. And like you, Jorge, I feel so happy that they announced this election was done. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, she's making history for women and people of color, and it's so exciting to see. I couldn't be any happier.
I agree, Andrea. I think this last election really renewed people's sense of hope in the process. And I think some of the biggest takeaways I had from the speeches was Biden mentioning unity and how he said, quote, he doesn't see red and blue, end quote. I think that was very empowering to show that we are one nation, regardless of what political party you're a part of. I think it's important to at least contribute to our nation and feel pride in who we are. And something I took away from Kamala Harris's speech is how she mentioned Black leaders said that they are overlooked, but quote, the backbone of our democracy, end quote. And I think really loved how she had many themes of overcoming obstacles. So overall, I'm just really proud of the both of them for campaigning so well. And I'd like to extend my congratulations to both.
Moving on to our next story, throughout the course of the pandemic, certain celebrities have been looked at negatively by the media for their choices surrounding social distancing or the lack thereof. Kendall Jenner's Halloween birthday bash in West Hollywood over last weekend is the latest to be scrutinized with backlash. Pictures from the 25-year-old model's birthday party circulated the internet last week, with prominent stars such as The Weeknd and Jaden Smith in attendance, among crowds of others. Although Kris Jenner told the press that all of the attendees took rapid COVID tests prior to attending, many people are upset at Kendall for hosting a party in the midst of a pandemic, when COVID cases, especially in Los Angeles County, are presently on the rise. So, these rapid COVID tests are not always accurate for people with no symptoms, and celebrities continue to use these tests, though there is a short supply of them. You may not even know you have COVID until a couple days after being exposed, and California forbids large gatherings as well. And we saw Kim Kardashian take a family trip to a private island versus Kendall Jenner's Halloween party in Los Angeles. What are your thoughts on celebrities showing their fans that they are partying? I think it's irresponsible because they know they have a big influence on media and youth. What are your thoughts?
Personally, I don't like that she had the party, but Kendall isn't the only one that hosted a party recently as a celebrity too. Jeffree Star, who's a famous YouTube guru, also had a huge Halloween party that had a lot of people in attendance. And he also had the COVID rapid testing. But like you were saying, it's not always correct. You don't know if it's going to be like false negative or something. So I just hope that one, these tests really aren't being taken away from other people so that celebrities can have parties with each other. And two, that we don't find out that those in attendance do end up getting COVID-19. What do you think, Amanda?
Something I found interesting, according to the New York Times, is that a study conducted of tests by Kendall discovered that the test was able to detect, quote, more than 80% of coronavirus infections found by slower lab-based PCR tests, end quote, compared to only 32% of positive tests being detected with rapid testing. So just by saying that the people before coming to the private island or being tested doesn't really mean it's safe. So I don't think it's very credible that she said, oh, it's totally fine, you know, we were all tested, because I think it still poses a risk. And I agree with what Andrea said, is that they still have millions of followers. So people might see what they're doing and take that into account if they ever want to party again. What do you think, Jorge?
Totally. Now, they, like you were mentioning, they are public figures. And I'm completely against of seeing them like, you know, going and having like this kind of parties and posting on social media, because what are they trying to say to us? That it's okay, that it's acceptable for us also to have some parties and we don't care about like the COVID-19 cases rising in LA, because this is very dangerous, guys. Whenever we see a public figure posting about this and saying that it's okay because they are having and they are taking the test prior the party, well, this is just making us feel that it's okay to do it. I think about this. If you are a public figure, you are a leader somehow. So you gotta be very respectful of the time and place that we're living right now. There are a lot of deaths. And while you're having a party, I don't think that's the best way for you to portray that we're getting through this in the best of the ways. So those are my thoughts. Now, let's move on to our next story. The Pirates of the Caribbean star Johnny Depp reportedly lost his libel case against the Britain's The Sun newspaper last week. He sued the publication and their executive editor over an article that was published, alleging Depp's violent relationship with his ex-wife and fellow Hollywood actress Amber Heard. A UK court justified the paper's use of the phrase wife beater in a 2018 article describing the relationship between the former couple. The judge concluded that this statement was, quote, substantially true after reviewing Heard's allegations, detailing 14 incidents of abuse. The lawsuit is now heading back to the States for a second legal battle. Now, this is very controversial, guys. When I think about Johnny Depp, I'm thinking about his career. And after having some problems of drug and alcohol abuse, now a violence in his couple, it's not really good for him. So I don't think if he's gonna continue have his value in the market in the film industry, I think he's gonna be very affected. Now let's move into Amber Heard. I mean, she was part and she's part of the Me Too movement. But when we see that she also was accused and arrested in 2009 from being also very violent to her former couple, Tasia, then it's not really making sense that we're trying to pretend that she's super empowered and she's trying to help women to raise their voice, while she also was very accused of these other situations. So we also have those kind of cases in which men, they're also abused by their couples. And that's my point here. Sometimes we think that it's just like man, the one who is abusing, but we also have the other side of the coin. And I think this probably could be the case. She already had these other situations in the past. So maybe she's also part of the problem and we are not trying to see it. We don't want to see it. And that's what we have until this point. So what do you think, Brie?
This case has gone on for so long, it seems like it's always been in the spotlight since the beginning. And all I really want to point out, though, is that Johnny Depp has worked and dated many celebrities, and he's not really had anyone else come out against him. Winona Ryder, Vanessa Paradis, they both defended their ex, stating that, you know, he's a good man. With this case coming out around the same time as the Me Too movement, Amber Heard has really become a voice for that, like you were saying. I think that it makes it harder to come to a decision, because if they say Amber Heard was lying, then it would end up hurting the Me Too movement. But if Johnny Depp did abuse her, then there goes a very prominent figure's life and career. So, you know, they're kind of, I think that's kind of why it's gone out so long, because everyone's just kind of like, oh, well, you know, who are we gonna cancel per se, you know? I think that it's kind of unfair for the the libel case to say that, you know, he was a wife beater when the actual abuse case hasn't gone through. You know, I think if anything, they should have done the libel case after everything else finished. The problem with cases like these, the truth tends to lie somewhere in the middle. So I'm really curious to see in the future, you know, what's going to happen there. Johnny Depp, though, he only has a few credits on IMDb for this year and next year. I think there's only like 3, which is a lot smaller than years past. I really don't think that we will be seeing either of them in the future, you know, at least for the time being.
I personally love Johnny Depp. He's been my childhood crush forever, and it comes to the question of separating the art from the artist. But I also want to say I do not stand or support domestic abusers. So if it did happen either way, I can no longer support someone like that, though he's been such a big part of my life. And, you know, I know Disney has taken over Pirates of the Caribbean, so they may not want him back. And he was such a big part of that movie. And Amber Heard has this role in Aquaman that apparently she has back. So it doesn't seem fair, and it should be interesting to see both sides and how their careers will play out.
So what's interesting is that Amber Heard was accused in 2009 for abusing former domestic partner Tasia Von Rhee. And according to Variety, Tasia claims that the situation was, quote, misrepresented and over-sensationalized, end quote. And she also claims the 2 people who accused them that they had hints of, quote, misogynistic attitudes, end quote. So apparently, even the victim said that she wasn't abused by Heard. And so I'm not sure if this could really count against her. So I'm a little bit confused about the situation. And personally, I don't want to draw any early conclusions from a very limited pool of evidence. So I hope everything gets settled soon and that we'll be able to learn the truth about what happened. For our final story, we want to highlight a successful Titan alumnus. Imagine enrolling into CSUF as a civil and environmental engineering major, and then becoming an actor later on. That's exactly what David Castaneda did once he realized his passion for the fine arts. He switched his major and never looked back. Castaneda graduated from CSUF in 2015 with a radio, TV, film degree, during which he even had a recurring role on Switched at Birth. He now plays the role of Diego Hargreaves in Netflix's The Umbrella Academy, whose 2nd season was just released this past summer. In an interview with CSUF, he gave some advice to current Titans, stating, quote, at the end of the day, it's all storytelling. What's needed are the more storytellers from the Latino community, end quote. Congratulations, David, on all your success. We hope to see more exciting projects from you soon. I really think this will give CSUF more credibility, and I think CSUF's name will be known more throughout the acting world, and we are really proud of you.
I personally love the Umbrella Academy and always kind of wanted to be an actress. So to see like a Cal State Fullerton alumnus live out their dreams, that's also my dreams, is so inspiring to see. And now it's surely been a heavy week, so thank you for sharing, Amanda. And with that, that's all the time we have today on the Report Roundtable Discussion. Have a safe week, everyone, and stay tuned for more news, views, and info. I'm Andrea Carvajal.
I'm Amanda Mendoza.
I'm Bree Eastlick.
And I'm Jorge Flores. And as always, stay fresh, Fullerton.